The silence in my apartment isn't peaceful anymore. It's heavy, vibrating with the ghost of a voice that just dismantled my entire future in 58 seconds. I am sitting on the edge of my bed, the midday sun mocking me through the blinds, clutching my phone so hard my knuckles are white. I've replayed the voice message 4 times. Each time, the words unbearable, boring, and passive-aggressive slice through the 3 years of memories I built with Mark. Outside, the world is preparing for the holidays. I can hear the distant chime of Christmas music from a neighbor's window, but inside this room, everything has turned to ice. I look at my bedside table, where a small velvet box is hidden deep in the drawer. Not an engagement ring I was going to receive, but a high-end watch I'd saved up 6 months of salary for. I was going to give it to him on New Year's Eve. I was going to ask him to move in. I was going to commit my life to a man who just told me he hates the people who gave me life. I'm tired of pretending I like your family. His voice echoes again in my mind, cold and dismissive. It wasn't just a complaint, it was an ultimatum. A line drawn in the sand. He didn't just insult my mother's quirks or my father's stories. He insulted the very foundation of who I am. He thinks he's testing me. He thinks I'll crawl back, apologize for my lineage, and choose his shadow over their light. He has no idea that with that one message, he didn't just cancel Christmas, he canceled us. My heart is racing, a frantic drumming against my ribs, but beneath the shock, a cold, hard clarity is forming. The woman he thinks I am would cry and beg. The woman I actually am is already mourning him as if he's already dead. 3 years. That's 1,095 days of building a life that I thought was solid. Mark and I met during a rainy November at a small bookstore cafe. He was charming, articulate, and had this way of looking at me that made me feel like the only person in the room. In those early days, everything felt effortless. We shared dreams, discovered hidden jazz bars, and spent weekends getting lost in the countryside. I truly believed I had found my person, the one who would stand by me through the chaos of life. But a relationship isn't just two people. It's two worlds colliding. My world is my family. We aren't perfect, but we are ours. My mother, Sarah, is the kind of woman who expresses love through sugar and flour. She doesn't just bake. She orchestrates symphonies of cookies and pies. Yes, she can be a bit overbearing, asking a dozen questions about my health or my career, but it comes from a place of fierce protection. My father, David, is a retired history teacher who lives for his boring stories. He'll talk for 20 minutes about the significance of a local landmark, his eyes lighting up with the joy of sharing knowledge. And then there's my sister, Jenna. She's sharp, successful, and carries herself with a confidence that some mistake for arrogance. But she has been my rock since we were kids. When I introduced Mark to them, I was terrified. I wanted them to love him as much as I did. And they did, or at least they tried with every fiber of their being. For 3 years, they opened their doors and their hearts to him. Mom always made sure to prepare his favorite lasagna, even when her arthritis was flaring up. Dad went out of his way to include Mark in his fantasy football league, even though Mark barely knew the rules. He ended up coming in second last year, and Dad bragged about his son-in-law's beginner's luck for weeks. Jenna treated Mark like the brother she never had, inviting him on shopping trips to help pick out gifts and getting him involved in our family group chats. From my perspective, Mark was part of the tribe. He smiled at the dinners, he laughed at the stories, and he thanked my mother for the desserts. He played the part of the devoted partner perfectly, or so I thought. Looking back now, the cracks were there, hidden behind a polite mask. He would sometimes go quiet on the car ride home or give a clipped response when I mentioned a family brunch. I attributed it to exhaustion or work stress. I never imagined that while he was eating my mother's food and accepting my father's kindness, he was actually simmering with a secret contempt. I had built a pedestal for him in my mind, placing him right next to the people I loved most. I was planning our future with the assumption that these two worlds were now one. The watch in my drawer wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol of the time I wanted to spend with him. I saw us at the Thanksgiving table, at Christmas mornings, at summer BBQs. I saw him holding my hand while my father told the same story for the 100th time. I thought he saw it too. I didn't realize that for 3 years, he wasn't joining my family. He was just tolerating them until he felt he had enough leverage to make me leave them behind. The mask didn't slip all at once, it eroded. About 6 months ago, I started noticing the subtle shifts, the microaggressions of a partner who was beginning to resent the space my family occupied in our lives. It started with the sighs. Every time my phone buzzed with a message from our family group chat, Mark would let out a long, audible breath, his eyes never leaving his laptop. He stopped asking how my mom's garden was doing. He stopped laughing at my dad's puns. The first real red flag happened during my father's 60th birthday dinner. My dad was halfway through his favorite anecdote about the 1974 blizzard, a story Mark had heard at least 5 times. I saw Mark's jaw tighten. Under the table, his leg was bouncing impatiently. When we got to the car, the silence was jagged. "Is everything okay?" I asked, reaching for his hand. He pulled it away to shift gears. "Your dad really needs a new script, Maya. It's like being stuck in a loop. Doesn't he realize how exhausting it is to pretend that's interesting?" The cruelty in his voice caught me off guard. "He's just happy, Mark. He's sharing himself with us." "He's occupying the air," Mark snapped. "And your mom, the way she kept pushing the lemon cake on me, it's not motherly, it's controlling. She's passive-aggressive about my diet." I remember feeling a cold chill. I made excuses for him, telling myself he was just stressed at the firm. I thought maybe I was forcing too much family time on him, so I started pulling back. I'd go to Sunday brunch alone, telling my parents he had deadlines. I'd filter the stories I told him. I was unknowingly beginning to walk on eggshells, trimming the edges of my own life to fit into the narrow box he was creating for me. Then came the Thanksgiving incident. My sister Jenna had just gotten a major promotion and was, admittedly, talking about it quite a bit. Mark sat there, stone-faced. Later that night, he told me Jenna acts like she's the CEO of the universe, and that he found her presence suffocating. I tried to defend her, but he turned it around on me, saying I was enmeshed and couldn't see the truth because I was too close to them. He started planting seeds of doubt, suggesting that my family didn't actually respect me, that they used me for emotional labor. He was trying to rewrite my history, trying to make me see my support system as a burden. He wasn't just criticizing them anymore. He was testing my loyalty. He wanted to see if I would nod along while he dismantled the people I loved. I stayed quiet, hoping it was a phase, hoping that once the holiday stress passed, the man I fell in love with would return. I didn't realize he was just sharpening the knife for the final cut. November 18th. I remember the date because it was a Tuesday, a day so mundane it felt impossible for a life to shatter within it. I was at my desk, deep into a spreadsheet, when my phone vibrated. A voice message from Mark. My heart did a little flutter. I thought maybe he was calling to apologize for the tension of the previous weekend, or perhaps to suggest a dinner date. I put on my headphones and pressed play. "Maya, I need to be honest with you. I'm tired of pretending I like your family. Your mom's passive-aggressive. Your dad tells the same boring stories, and your sister acts like she's better than everyone. I don't want to do Christmas with them this year. Actually, I don't want to do any holidays with them anymore. If you want to keep dating, fine, but don't invite me to family stuff." The world didn't stop, but my breath did. I sat there, the office hum continuing around me, while those words looped in my ears like a serrated blade. He didn't say, "I'm overwhelmed." He didn't say, "Can we have some time to ourselves?" He attacked their characters, the very essence of the people who had treated him like a son. He called my father boring, the man who had researched Mark's favorite historical period, just to have something to talk to him about. He called my mother passive-aggressive, the woman who had hand-knitted him a scarf last winter. I didn't move for 10 minutes. I just stared at the waveform of the message. The sheer entitlement of it was staggering. He wasn't asking for a boundary. He was issuing an ultimatum. He was holding our relationship hostage, demanding that I amputate a limb, my family, to keep the rest of the body alive. I left the office and walked to my car, my legs feeling like lead. I sat in the driver's seat and played it again. Shock. I played it a third time. Anger. The way he ended it. "If you want to keep dating, fine." As if he were doing me a favor by staying with me, despite my unbearable relatives. By the fourth listen, the anger crystallized into a cold, terrifying clarity. He had spent 3 years lying to my face. He had eaten our food, accepted our gifts, and shared our laughter while secretly recording a tally of grievances in his head. He didn't just dislike them, he looked down on them. And by extension, he looked down on the person they raised. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were red, but my hands had stopped shaking. He wanted a response? He wanted to know where I stood? I opened our text thread. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a second before I typed 3 words that would end my 3-year relationship. Completely understand. No problem. I hit send. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. Within seconds, my phone lit up. Mark. Really, you're not mad? Me. Nope. Your choice. Mark. Okay, good. See you tonight. Thai food? Me. Sure. He thought he had won. He thought he had successfully bullied me into submission, that I was so desperate for his love that I would quietly pack my family away into a box and hide them for the rest of my life. He had no idea that completely understand didn't mean I agreed with him. It meant I finally understood exactly who he was. And no problem meant it was no longer a problem for me, because he was already a stranger to me. That evening was a masterclass in psychological horror. When I walked through the door, Mark was lounging on the sofa, scrolling through his phone as if he hadn't just nuked our future. Hey, babe, he said, casually tossing his phone aside. He looked relaxed, victorious even. He thought he had successfully managed me. He thought the ultimatum had worked because I hadn't screamed or cried. We ate Thai food. He chatted animatedly about a drama with one of his coworkers, showing me TikToks and laughing. I watched him, really watched him, for the first time in months. I saw the way his lips curled with a hint of condescension even when he laughed. I saw the superficiality of his charm. Every time he reached for my hand or tried to kiss my cheek, I felt a physical jolt of revulsion. It was like being touched by a stranger who had stolen my boyfriend's skin. Inside, I was a hurricane of calculations. I didn't mention the message. I didn't bring up Christmas. I played the role of the good girlfriend one last time, but every cell in my body was screaming for an exit. I realized that night that I didn't just lose a boyfriend. I had escaped a captor. If I had married him, this would have been my life, a slow, agonizing isolation from everyone who loved me, until he was the only thing I had left. The next morning, I moved with the precision of a surgeon. Step 1. I took that luxury watch, the one I'd saved months for, back to the jeweler. The salesman recognized me and asked if the lucky guy liked it. It wasn't the right fit, I said, my voice steady. I felt a surge of power as the refund hit my bank account. Step 2. I called my best friend Sarah, who works in real estate. I told her I needed to look at studio apartments. I needed a clean break, a space that hadn't been tainted by his presence. Step 3. I called my sister Jenna. I didn't tell her about the message yet. I couldn't bear to let his poison touch her, but I told her I was coming over for dinner. For 2 weeks, I lived a double life. I was the perfect partner at night and a woman planning a disappearance by day. I watched him talk about our plans for New Year's, knowing I wouldn't be there. I watched him ignore my mom's calls, knowing I would never ask him to answer them again. I wasn't just breaking up with him. I was reclaiming the territory of my soul. The reaction he expected was a meltdown. The reaction he got was a ghost that hadn't left the house yet. The 2 weeks leading up to the breakup were the longest of my life. Thanksgiving came and went. I spent it at my parents' house while Mark stayed home, claiming he had work. My family kept asking where he was. My mom had even packed a Tupperware container with his favorite stuffing. Is Mark okay, Maya? He hasn't replied to my texts about the Christmas sweater sizes, she asked, her eyes full of genuine concern. I had to look away, the lie burning in my throat. He's just busy, Mom. Don't worry. 2 days after Thanksgiving, the hammer dropped. We were in my living room. I didn't wait for a fight. I didn't wait for a reason. I simply stood up and said, Mark, this isn't working out. We're done. The look of pure, unadulterated confusion on his face would have been funny if it weren't so pathetic. Wait, what? Because of the holiday thing? Maya, I thought you understood. I thought we were on the same page. I do understand, I said, my voice dropping an octave. I understand that you find the people who raised me unbearable. I understand that you think my father is a bore and my sister is stuck up. That's a fundamental incompatibility. My family is a package deal with me. You didn't just reject them. You rejected the version of me that loves them. He shifted from confusion to indignation in a heartbeat. You're overreacting. Couples don't have to share everything. I was setting boundaries. I'm choosing you, Maya. Why can't you choose us over them? Because there is no us without them, I replied. You issued an ultimatum, Mark. You told me if I wanted to keep dating you, I had to keep my family away. Well, I'm choosing the people who have loved me for 30 years over the man who's been lying to my face for 3. He started to cry, real, messy tears, but they felt performative. He called me heartless. He said I was throwing away 3 years over a minor disagreement. I didn't argue. I just watched him pack a bag and leave. But the escalation didn't stop at the door. 3 weeks later, the void he left was filled by someone I never expected. I met Leo on a whim, a quiet, kind-hearted architect who owned a golden retriever named Barnaby. Our first date was supposed to be coffee, but we ended up walking through the park for 4 hours. He was everything Mark wasn't: curious, empathetic, and genuinely interested in the world around him. By mid-December, as the Christmas lights began to twinkle across the city, Leo mentioned he didn't have plans. His family lived in Europe, and he was staying behind for work. "Want to come to mine?" I asked. I felt a pang of nerves. Fair warning, it's pretty chaotic. My mom goes overboard with the decorations, and my dad, well, he has a lot of stories. Leo's face lit up. "Honestly, that sounds amazing. I miss the chaos of a big family Christmas. Are you sure it's not too soon?" "Leo," I said, thinking of the empty space at the table Mark had left behind, "they're going to love you." I hadn't heard a word from Mark in 3 weeks. Total radio silence. I assumed he was licking his wounds or finding someone else to manipulate. I didn't realize he was still watching. I didn't realize that in his mind, he hadn't lost. He was just waiting for me to realize my mistake. The 2 weeks leading up to the final break were the longest of my life. I had to navigate Thanksgiving, the first major holiday since his ultimatum. Mark stayed home, claiming he had deadlines, but we both knew it was the first test of his new world order. My family's house was filled with the smell of roasting turkey and the sound of my father's laughter. My mom kept looking at the empty chair next to me. "Is Mark okay, Maya? I made the extra creamy mashed potatoes he likes," she said, her brow furrowed with genuine worry. I had to swallow a lump of pure salt. "He's just busy, Mom. Don't worry." I felt like a traitor eating her food while knowing the man I shared a bed with had called her smothering just days before. The breakup happened 2 days later. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I sat him down in the living room and told him it was over. "Wait, what?" he stammered, his face pale. "Is this about the family thing? Maya, I thought you understood. I thought we were on the same page." "I do understand," I said, my voice cold and steady. "I understand that you find the people I love unbearable. That's a fundamental incompatibility. My family is a part of me. If you exclude them, you're excluding a part of my soul. I can't build a life with someone who views my support system as a burden." He flipped the script instantly, moving from confusion to a desperate anger. "You're choosing them over me. After 3 years, you're throwing us away because I wanted some space from your sister's ego? You're choosing a boring story over a future with me." "I'm choosing respect over contempt, Mark. You didn't ask for space. You issued an ultimatum. You told me to choose, so I did." He left that night, crying and calling me a narcissist for not fighting for the relationship. I changed the locks the next morning, but the silence didn't last. About 3 weeks after the breakup, I met Leo. He was a veterinarian with a kind smile and a golden retriever named Barnaby. We hit it off over a shared love of old bookstores and hiking. By mid-December, it was clear this wasn't just a rebound. It was a breath of fresh air. When Leo mentioned his family was overseas for the holidays, I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in years: excitement for Christmas. "Want to come to mine?" I asked. Fair warning, it's a lot. My mom is a baking machine and my dad, well, he's a talker. Leo grinned, petting Barnaby. "Honestly, that sounds like heaven. I'd love to meet them." Christmas Eve arrived. Leo showed up with a box of homemade brownies for my mom and a vintage book on local history for my dad. He was nervous, but he walked into my parents' house with an open heart. My mom hugged him immediately. My dad started in on a story about the 1920s trolley system, and to my shock, Leo didn't look for the exit. He leaned in. He asked questions. He even brought Barnaby, who spent the evening asleep on my sister Jenna's feet, while she showed Leo photos of her recent promotion. Around 8 p.m., we were all sitting by the fireplace, wearing the matching, ridiculous reindeer crew sweaters my mom buys every year. Leo was laughing, holding my hand, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel like I was translating my family for a critic. I felt home. Jenna snapped a photo of all of us, the new crew, she called it, and posted it to Instagram. I went to bed that night feeling at peace. I didn't realize that across town, a digital bomb was about to go off. December 26th, 7:00 a.m. The peace of the morning was shattered not by an alarm, but by the frantic, persistent buzzing of my phone on the nightstand. It wasn't just a few notifications. It was a rhythmic, aggressive vibration that felt like a physical attack. I reached out, bleary-eyed, expecting an emergency call from work. 23 missed calls, 15 texts, all from Mark. My heart plummeted into my stomach. My first instinct was fear. Did something happen to him? Was he hurt? Then I started reading. We need to talk. How could you? Call me now, Maya. Don't you dare ignore me. Who the hell is he? Before I could even process the vitriol, a text came in from my sister Jenna. Maya, Mark is going absolutely psycho in my DMs about the Christmas photos. What should I do? He's losing his mind. The reality hit me like a physical blow. Jenna had posted the family photo from Christmas Eve, the photo of all of us, Mom, Dad, Jenna, her husband, Leo, and me, all huddled together in those ridiculous matching sweaters. Mark had seen it. He had seen Leo sitting in his spot. He had seen Leo wearing the sweater that was meant to be his. He had seen the happiness he tried to extinguish blooming even brighter without him. But the dark moment wasn't just his anger, it was the realization of how deep his entitlement ran. He hadn't just moved on, he had been lurking, waiting for me to break. Seeing me thrive with my family, the very people he told me were unbearable, was a personal insult to his ego. By noon, the harassment transitioned from me to my mother. She called me, her voice trembling. Maya, Mark has called the house 4 times. He's crying, he's screaming. He told me I stole his life and gave it to a stranger. Your father had to unplug the landline. Honey, I'm scared. He sounds unhinged. I felt a wave of nausea. This was the man I had considered marrying. This was the man who had sat at their table, and now he was terrorizing an elderly couple because he couldn't control me anymore. The darkness wasn't just his behavior. It was the terrifying realization that for 3 years, I had been sleeping next to a man who viewed my family not as people, but as property he had the right to reject or reclaim at will. Then, the final straw. Leo showed me his phone. Mark had found Leo's Instagram profile and sent him a series of messages. You're just a rebound. She's only using you to get back at me. Enjoy the boring stories and the smothering mother. She'll grow tired of you once the holiday high wears off. We were together 3 years. You're just a placeholder. I looked at Leo, waiting for the doubt to cloud his eyes, waiting for him to decide that my life was too much drama. That was the darkest thought of all, that Mark would successfully poison this new, beautiful thing before it even had a chance to grow. I felt small, exposed, and deeply ashamed that my past was now bleeding into Leo's present. I sat on the sofa, my face buried in my hands, waiting for the inevitable. I expected Leo to stand up, grab his coat, and tell me that this was too much. I expected him to realize that dating me meant inherited madness, but instead I felt the weight of the cushion shift as he sat down beside me. He didn't pull away. He leaned in, putting a steady hand on my shoulder. Maya, he said softly, look at me. I looked up, my eyes stinging. I am so sorry, Leo. I didn't know he was capable of this. If you want to leave, I completely... Stop, he interrupted, a small, confident smile playing on his lips. I'm a vet, remember? I deal with rabid behavior for a living. This guy isn't a threat. He's just a cornered animal making a lot of noise because he realized he lost the best thing that ever happened to him. He picked up his phone and showed me his reply to Mark's venomous message. It was short. Thanks for the heads up. Her family is wonderful. Merry Christmas. Then, with a casual flick of his thumb, he hit block. That was the moment the power dynamic shifted. Watching Leo dismiss Mark's entire existence with one sentence made me realize that I had been giving Mark far too much credit. He wasn't a mastermind. He was a bully who had lost his leverage. The turning point wasn't just about blocking him. It was about taking control of the narrative. Mark had been spinning a web of lies, telling mutual friends I had emotionally cheated, telling his mother, Diane, that I was cruel and had rubbed my new relationship in his face. On December 28th, when Diane called me from an unknown number to scream about how I had destroyed her son, I didn't stay silent. I didn't cry. Diane, I said, my voice as cold as a winter morning. Your son sent me a voice message telling me my mother was passive-aggressive, my father was a bore, and my sister was stuck up. He gave me an ultimatum. Them or him. I chose them. I have that recording saved. I have the logs of him harassing my sister, my new partner, and my workplace. If you want to talk about destruction, let's talk about the legal consequences of his stalking. Silence. The kind of heavy, vacuum-like silence that happens when a lie hits a wall of truth. You saved it? She whispered. Of course I did, I replied. And if he contacts me or my family one more time, I won't just save it, I'll use it. I hung up and felt a surge of adrenaline. For 3 years, I had been the one making excuses. I had been the one smoothing things over. No more. I called my HR department and gave them a preemptive heads up about his LinkedIn messages to my coworkers. I contacted the building manager of my new apartment and put him on the do not admit list. I wasn't the victim in his drama anymore. I was the architect of my own safety. By New Year's Eve, the night I was supposed to be receiving a watch and a test of loyalty, I was at a rooftop party with Leo. I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't checking my phone for Mark's mood. I was dancing. When the countdown reached 0 and the fireworks exploded over the city, I realized that the choice Mark had forced me to make was the greatest gift he could have ever given me. He tried to take my family away. Instead, he gave me my freedom. The collapse of Mark's reality was as public as it was pathetic. Once he realized that his tears and his mother's phone calls wouldn't bend me to his will, he entered a phase of total scorched earth desperation. January became a month of digital warfare. Mark created a dedicated Instagram account titled Maya Truth Exposed. It was a graveyard of selectively edited texts and old photos of us during our happier times. He wrote long, rambling captions about narcissistic abuse and family enmeshment, using therapy buzzwords he clearly didn't understand. He even posted the Christmas photo Jenna had shared, circling my mother's arm around me and labeling it evidence of emotional incest. Leo and I sat on my sofa one evening, scrolling through the page. I expected to feel humiliated, but instead I felt a strange sense of detachment. Leo actually started laughing. Babe, he said, pointing at a post where Mark claimed I had isolated him. He's literally calling your dad's hobby a psychological torture tactic. This isn't a manifesto, it's a comedy script. We ended up making a Mark bingo card, crossing off squares every time he used the word gaslighting incorrectly. But the fallout turned serious when Mark targeted Leo's veterinary clinic. He began leaving one-star reviews claiming Leo was heartless and mistreated animals. That was the line. You can come for me, but you do not come for the man who stepped into the gap you left. Leo's clinic lawyer sent a cease and desist that carried enough weight to make the reviews vanish within 48 hours. But the damage to Mark's reputation was permanent. The final blow to Mark's social standing came from within our old circle. He had tried to tell our mutual friends that I had rebounded with a side piece I'd been seeing for months. However, the timeline didn't add up, and Mark's own behavior was becoming impossible to ignore. He showed up at my apartment on January 4th with his sister and a friend, ringing the doorbell and screaming that I owed him closure. I didn't open the door. I called building security. The image of Mark being escorted out of a lobby by 2 security guards while his sister tried to hide her face from the cameras was the last time I saw him in person. The building manager sent me an email later that day. Mark and his associates were officially banned from the premises. The fallout hit his professional life next. In his blind rage, he had messaged my coworkers on LinkedIn trying to warn them about my character. One of those coworkers happened to be close friends with Mark's boss. Word got back to his firm that he was using company time to harass an ex-partner's professional network. He was placed on a performance plan and, unable to handle the disrespect of being monitored, he quit before they could fire him. By the end of January, the Daniel Truth Exposed account was banned for harassment. Mark had lost his job, his social standing, and his grip on my life. His mother called one last time, her voice small and defeated, asking if I would drop the restraining order I had filed so Mark could look for new jobs without a red flag. I'm sorry, Diane, I said, and for the first time I didn't feel any guilt. But my safety is a boundary, not a negotiation. It has been 6 months since that Christmas Eve photo shattered the last of Mark's delusions. The dust has finally settled, and the silence in my life is no longer heavy. It is clean. The restraining order served its purpose. Mark moved to another city after his professional reputation in our town crumbled. My mother recently told me she ran into his mother at the mall. Apparently, Mark is dating someone new, a girl named Sarah, and has already issued her an ultimatum about her toxic family. Some people don't grow, they just change the stage for their same old drama. I didn't feel anger when I heard that. I felt a profound, bone-deep relief that I was no longer the one on that stage. Leo and I are planning a camping trip for August. My parents and Jenna's family are all coming. Leo has already bought matching hiking shirts for everyone, including Barnaby and my sister's dog. When my mom saw them, she cried. Not because of the shirts, but because she realized she didn't have to apologize for existing anymore. The lesson I learned is one that cost me 3 years, but it's a truth I will carry forever. An ultimatum is never about a boundary. It's about control. When someone asks you to choose between them and the people who have loved you since your first breath, they aren't asking for your loyalty. They are asking for your submission. They are telling you that their comfort is more important than your history, your values, and your heart. Mark thought he was testing my love for him. He didn't realize he was actually revealing his lack of love for me. To love someone is to love the soil they grew in. My family is that soil, messy, loud, boring, and fiercely protective. They are the reason I had the strength to leave him. The best revenge wasn't the restraining order, the job loss, or the blocked calls. The best revenge is the fact that this Christmas there will be an extra chair at the table, filled by someone who doesn't just tolerate my father's stories, but asks for one more. I saved my energy for someone who saw my family's quirks as features, not bugs. I still have that voice message saved in a folder labeled "The Best Day of My Life." Every now and then, if I ever feel like compromising my worth for someone else's ego, I listen to it. I listen to the contempt in his voice, and then I look at the matching sweater hanging in my closet. I chose the sweater. I chose the stories. I chose myself.